White could do it.
That's the top of the third one. That's up at Virginia. And that is extremely steep, looking back down from Virginia. And in my non-engineer experience and history would suggest that stairs would actually need to be built at the top of that to make it really usable. If you put bark or gravel on it, you're going to send people straight on down it. And I'm not as concerned about the liability as Wayne was, but people will end up falling. If you can get back, hey,
You're trying, they're trying.
I'm not good with
Bill,
this.
Maybe
Please.
White can do it.
Click to exit. It's not in the slideshow. Click to exit. Then you start. There you go. Which one you want?
Fourth one.
The
There
two,
it is.
The
that's
third
this.
one?
the third one.
Okay.
Fourth one.
Yeah,
Fourth one.
and I understand Sue's comments about people not knowing where the public right-of-way is, but when you go up there and go around this sidewalk, it goes back to the left 90 degrees and then just ends, and then they walk on the dirt up behind this house, ending up here. Like I say, it's very steep at the top and would pretty much need stairs at the top. And then, here's this really steep part up here, and then there's a bump, fair good-sized bump right in there that would need to be taken off to make it tie in. But it could be done. And then if you go to the last one, please. Yeah, go back to the previous picture.
Okay.
Yeah. My only question about this one is how long it is. It's very long, and it's fairly flat across there until you get right up here at the top, and it just really jumps up. So to make it really usable, would need to have some work up here at the very top to make it so that a biker at least wouldn't have to just get off and manhandle the bike around the barricade that's right there. So look, my point is that all of these are I think are good potential places, that they're all laudable ideas. I think that they can be done. But personally, I would like to have staff, Gary, do some quick and not totally dirty estimates of cost on each one of them to do minimal improvements to make them really usable. The gravel on the first one, not a lot there, but the asphalt, 4 foot wide asphalt path of the other one, which is probably, 250, 350 feet long, is some expense. And then stairs at the top of Virginia is going to be expensive, because as a developer, I've put in stairs before and they're not cheap. And there need to be some asphalt or something there as well to make it all tie together. So I'm just of a mind that this is not quite ready for council approval, and I would be a little reluctant to make a motion to sign them as they currently are. I probably would go along with it if somebody wanted to do that, but I'd be more inclined to table this and ask for staff input on cost. Thank you.
Gary, has Public Works looked at this? Les or Scott, have they looked at these projects? Because, it's gone through Transportation Commission, Parks and Recreation Commission, Administrative Committee.
And we talked to Kevin Lilly as well.
And that's right, Kevin was at that last meeting. So do we have some
One of-
recommendations from staff on this?
If I may, one of the things that I asked Tom to do, Tom Grundon, was, I know he had discussions with Public Works and with Dwight, and I asked him what it would cost to do the minimal improvements that were being requested. He thought that $1,000, $1,500 would be sufficient to do minimal improvements. That's not going to improve stairs or anything like that. And if there's something that Parks and Rec determines it's just too dangerous to do at this time, then I suspect that they would bring that back to council at some point with a larger project. As it sits right now, he indicated that he thought that would be about what it would cost. I think he talked to Dwight a little bit about whether that could be paid for out of parks maintenance or park improvements, that sort of thing. But he was asked that, and that was the number that he threw out.
Okay. Before the council gets too deep into its deliberation. I understand we have a neighbor of one of these pathway routes who is here and would like to speak, and that's Mr. Morgan. So let me invite Mr. Morgan up. I'll let you identify yourself by first name and last name and address, please.
Judging by the way you're dressed, you're going to propose to do one of these for us.
I'm sorry, I worked till 6 o'clock tonight, and I heard about this.
We're glad.
Well, I
we're
didn't
glad
really hear
you're
about
here.
this meeting. Justin, the city building inspector, was over visiting at my house today, talked with my in-laws, and there were some discussions that I wanted to have answered. But currently we're
Mr.
talking.
Morgan, could you identify yourself for the record,
my
please?
name is Robert Morgan, and I live at 530 North Van Buren, which is east of the number 1 pathway. I don't know how to run this, or I'd put it back there for you.
We know what you mean.
Yeah. I believe I actually saw Sue walk by my place Saturday morning. I was wondering why are all these people out here while I'm mowing my lawn? And, but Randy Fife and I, from starting back in 2003, had discussions about this path. I had personal materials stored on the city right-of-way. There was a wooden post barricade at the end of the street. There was never a dead-end designation at the East Street entrance of Van Buren Street, which I finally convinced the city to get us one. It's not very evident, but the Hog Creek drainage is buried underneath this path. There's a 48-inch steel culvert that is approximately 18 inches below the gravel level there, and there is thousands of yards of gravel that were put there in 1974 when Hog Creek was buried. I have lived at the place since 1988, and Bill Blacker, who was the neighbor adjacent to me, gave me the history of the place, showed me where the dedicated markers are, property boundaries, and et cetera, et cetera. I've lived there 25 years, so now I'm like the old man in the neighborhood. But this pathway, when they first had me clean it up and they brought in the concrete barricades there, the city set them at 28 inches apart, and I came right home and called Randy and said, don't you know what the ADA says? And because it's 36 inches egress is minimum, it's a public access is what they were going for. We set that up for a public pathway because people have been using it as a public pathway. When I cleaned up my stuff and took down the wooden barricade, within half an hour, people were driving vehicles through it. And I called Randy up and said, you said that the city would barricade that off after I got my stuff out. And I said, I've seen 4 vehicles go through in the last hour. And they came right over and put the barricades in. But it is, the gravel has been there for 30 years, and it has achieved some migration of soils, and it could stand to probably be freshened up. I spray the weeds on my section of it to keep it down, and I maintain it because as per Idaho code, which Randy and I discussed, is that since it is not an approved city right-of-way, it is the responsibility of the adjacent landowner to maintain and care for my half of the Van Buren Street right-of-way. So it is all well and good that the pathway is going to be recognized, especially since a city employee, I assume, rides his moped through there at 10 minutes to 6 every morning, headed for the city shop to start at 6 a.m. But, well, I have another gentleman that lives over on Morton Street that rides his rascal through there 2 or 3 times a week. I have tried with my neighbors adjacent that have this. We have tried to maintain a fairly well open pathway for pedestrians, bicyclers, And, you know, but I have no problem with the signage, and I just wanted you guys to be aware of what the background is on what's underneath that and what it is. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you for coming to talk with us, Mr. Morgan. We appreciate that. Did you get your 36-inch spread after you told you
Yes,
informed them
they
28
came
wasn't
right
enough?
over the front end loader and moved that. You have to understand, at the time, I was working as a special inspector for strata geotechnical engineering. And I've had a number of jobs over the years, and I have developed a unique set of skills and knowledge that make several people in the city shop and inspections areas just go, not him. But
I have that effect on him too, you know? It's
yeah, I'm not a know-it-all, but I know a lot, okay? And, but yes, I see Walter wants to ask me a question.
He does. You willing to field one, Walter?
Yes.
How much is it used other than the two that you've already mentioned? I mean, some idea of who else uses it and how much?
I see a number of bicyclers go through. As you may be aware, on up there toward the city shop is the Sojourners Alliance. I see quite a bit of traffic go through from there. There are some school children that travel daily back and forth to school that live over north of Morton Street. College students, I would say on an average weekday, 30 to 50 people easily use this as a path. And, you know, I try to go out there once a month and make sure the litter's picked up. In the first picture there, just to the left-hand side of that is a dumpster, Lake Town Sanitation dumpster, which services the duplexes down Van Buren Street. And when the wind blows and the dumpster is full, as college students tend to do, all the debris that is light enough to blow out of that dumpster goes over along my fence and in behind the barricade and into my yard and my garden and et cetera, et cetera. And I go out there and I seem to be the only one that's concerned about picking it up, and I do pick it up and I do take care of it. And so the one thing I want to stress is that, you know, you don't come in and you want to put borders down and beauty bark and pave it or whatever, because as your city attorney has already pointed out, since it is not an approved right-of-way, the city is not responsible for any care and maintenance of this path at all. It falls to the adjacent landowners to care and maintain for it. It is a perfectly suitable path. Everyone that uses it seems to have no problems. And if I'm going to maintain a path, I think I've maintained a pretty good one. I assume several of you have been out there and walked over this, and it's in pretty good shape. The only thing that it is missing is signage, but with a large 38-inch gap between, there should be, you know, everybody knows that it's a path. I actually shovel it out in the wintertime too, when the city plows it full. And I'm a workaholic fool.
Thank you
So I shovel out several of my neighbors. I shovel out the fire hydrants. I shovel out everything. So I've been shoveling for years. Are there any other questions the council would have for me?
Counselors? Okay.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming
Thank you.
down.
Thank you so much for your public
Okay.
service.
Now, on the other note, I have here the card from Justin Goodwin
Yes.
that was delivered to my house. Evidently, there was a city engineer and someone else with him that said that there was a complaint made to a city council person about the fifth wheel trailer that I have sitting off of Van Buren Street. That's the main reason I'm here tonight.